Now, expectations were very low for the Broncos heading into 2024, as a decent amount of people, they weren't high on Bo Nix, and they thought their roster was super lacking in talent. And some people thought that they would be so bad that they believed that they would own the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft on account of their own team record. Yet, as it stands right now, we're approaching Week 13, and Denver right now is 7-5, and they're the 7th seed in the AFC. Simply put, they have been way better than most people thought, and they've been a really good team. So in today's video, let's go over how the Broncos have been able to totally exceed expectations this year, and if they can hold on and secure a playoff spot in 2024, ending their 9-year playoff drought. Now before we do get things started, please go ahead and hit that like button if you guys end up enjoying the video, since it really helps out the channel. And of course, subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy videos like this. That way you don't miss out on any new videos like the one you're watching right now. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get things started. Now, I do want to begin by talking about their defense, because their defense has been absolutely phenomenal, and they've been arguably the best defense in the NFL this year. As I record this video, they currently are 6th in team defense, 7th in run defense, 3rd in points per game, 4th in points per drive, they're 14th in third down defense, they're the number 1 red zone defense in the league, and they rank highly in efficiency stats as they're 3rd in EPA per play, 3rd in success rate, 1st in dropback EPA per play, 3rd in dropback success rate, 7th in rush EPA per play, and 7th in rush success rate. Simply put, they have been absolutely amazing. Their secondary, it's one of the best in the league. As Patrick Surtain, he's arguably the best cornerback in the NFL. You got guys like Riley Moss, Brandon Jones, and Jaquan McMillan. They're all pretty good players, and they got a pretty good front seven as well. Zach Allen, he's been playing like one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. John Franklin Myers, who they acquired in the offseason via a trade, he's been a very good offseason pickup for them. Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper are both pretty good. Jonah Ellis has had a pretty solid rookie season, and along with that, their linebackers aren't too bad. Cody Barton has been alright, and this guy Justin Stranad, he's been okay as well. And besides the players, Vance Joseph deserves a lot of credit for how their defense has been playing. I mean, a lot of people, they wanted him gone after the Broncos allowed 70 points and 726 yards against the Dolphins in week 3 of the 2023 season. But ever since that game, they've picked it up, and Vance Joseph has just done a fantastic job with the Broncos defense this year. I mean, a lot of people thought that their defense was lacking in talent outside of Patrick Surtain, but obviously that just hasn't been the case, as a lot of other players outside of Patrick Surtain, they've really stepped it up and they've been playing very well. And Vance Joseph, again, he's done a really good job getting the most out of these guys and making their defense a top-notch unit. And I think their defense is honestly the number one reason why, they've been, such a good team this year. And if Vance Joseph keeps this up, he honestly might get another head coaching gig. I know he got a head coaching gig with the Cardinals a while back, and it didn't really end well, but who knows, maybe he does get a second chance, just given how well he's done as Denver's DC. Offensively, Denver has also been pretty solid. Now, they haven't been amazing, but again, they have been pretty solid. They had a bit of a slow start to the season, but for the most part, I think they have been solid. They do rank about above average to below average in most major categories, but I will say some of it I think is affected by their slow start. I think if they had a better start, they would rank highly in those categories. But yeah, as for the Broncos offense, the big story has obviously been Bo Nix. The Broncos took him in the first round of this past year's NFL draft, and there definitely were a lot of people who liked him, but then again, quite a bit of people disliked him, as I said before, largely due to the fact that he was an older prospect. The system he did play in did simplify his reads, and his footwork, it definitely could get a little bit messy under pressure. Now, Oregon, I am an Oregon fan for college football, so I was a little bit biased, but I honestly liked him coming out of Oregon. I thought he was a really good pick by Denver, and I definitely agreed with some of the criticisms. I thought some of them were valid, and I even shared some of the same criticisms that, I just listed before. But in my opinion, I think some people really overblew how big of an issue his age was. I felt like a lot of people kind of just saw Bo Nix's age and they said, oh, he's not good because he's an older prospect, which is pretty shallow and just a really terrible analysis. And there were a lot of things to like about Bo Nix coming out of Oregon. Like, he had pretty good physical tools. He was pretty accurate. He was a really good decision maker. He was just a solid all-around player. He had really good pocket presence, and he could play in and out of structure. Now, Bo had a rough start to the season, but after his first 4 games, he's been a lot better, and he's just gotten better as time has gone on. And as it stands right now, I think he's arguably Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he's maybe the best rookie. He's been maybe the best rookie quarterback. It's either him, Jaden Daniels, or Drake May. But simply put, Bo Nix has had a very good rookie season, and he's been playing like one of the better quarterbacks in the league, which is something you really love to see as a Broncos fan. Currently, he has 2,548 passing yards, 16 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, to go along with 300 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. He's been a really good fit in Sean Payton's system, and I thought he fit Sean Payton's system very well, which is one of the reasons why I like that pick for the Broncos at the time. And he's been better than Russell Wilson was last year, and again, he's a much better scheme fit. I'm happy to see Bo balling out for the Broncos, and I think he's only going to continue to get better, and he's going to only continue this upward trajectory. And again, if you're a Denver fan, you got to be very satisfied with how Bo Nix has been playing for you this season. And what's even more impressive is that he's done this with lackluster weapons and an inconsistent run game. Now, speaking of the Broncos' offensive supporting cast, as I said before, their run game is definitely a little bit inconsistent, but I will say it's not terrible. Javonte Williams, he's been okay for the Broncos, but again, he's been very inconsistent. Jaleel McLaughlin, he's okay. And Audric Esteem, he's shown flashes of what he can be, but he hasn't gotten that much playing time, and I do believe that he's dealt with a little bit of injuries as well. But Audric Esteem definitely could be something pretty good in the future. And Bo Nix has also been really good on the ground, as I said before. I also did touch a little bit on their weapons. And Denver's receiving weapons, they could use a little bit of an upgrade. But as for the guys they got right now, Courtland Sutton, he's been pretty good. And lately, he's been on a massive hot streak. But I will say Courtland Sutton can be a little bit inconsistent. But with that said, he's been playing very well for the Broncos this season. And as it stands right now, I think he's like top 10 in receiving yards. And he might also be top 10 in receiving touchdowns. I'm not totally sure about the receiving touchdowns part, but I know he's top 10 in receiving yards as I record this video. But Courtland Sutton, he's pretty good. This guy, Devon Vele, he was a 7th round pick for them, but he's been pretty solid for the Broncos. Troy Franklin, obviously as an Oregon fan, I loved him. I was pretty surprised to see him fall to the 4th round, but he has shown flashes of what he can be. I think he's a pretty good separator. He has been a decent red zone threat. However, he definitely does have a few drops, so he has to clean that up. But I do think that if Troy Franklin can, if the Broncos give him a little bit more playing time and he can clean up those drops and, they get him more involved, then I think he can be a pretty good player for them. Marvin Mims, I liked him coming out of Oklahoma back in the 2023 NFL draft, and I think he can be a good gadget player for them, and he can be a pretty good returner. And as far as their tight ends go, they've been pretty bad. Adam Trotman, Lucas Krull, and Nate Adkins, I think those guys are like their top 3 tight ends on their depth chart, and they aren't really ideal starting tight ends. So the Broncos, there are some pieces here when it comes to the receiving room and their tight end room, but they definitely need to get a starting caliber tight end and a number 1 wide receiver. Denver's offensive line, though, it's been one of the best in the league, as according to ESPN, they are number 1 in pass block win rate, and they're 5th in run block win rate. To go along with that, they've allowed the 4th fewest sacks in the league, and that is a stark contrast to last year, where they allowed the 6th most sacks. Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey, they're both pretty good tackles. Quinn Miners is one of the best guards in the NFL, and Luke Wattenberg, he's been a pretty solid center. Bo Nix, he's also helped out a lot, as his pocket presence, it's been amazing, and he's really good at avoiding sacks and scrambling, and it's helped their old offensive line a lot, and it really just shows that their offensive line really wasn't that bad. I know the Broncos, again, they were top 10 in sacks allowed last year, but I think a large part of it was because of Russell Wilson. Like Russell Wilson, last year for the Broncos, I don't think he was terrible. I'd say he was about average, but one of the problems he had is that his pocket presence was really bad, and he had a bad habit of holding onto the ball for too long. We also need to make sure Sean Payton gets a shout out because he is one of the best head coaches in the league, and I know a lot of dudes were critical of him after the whole Russell Wilson situation, and while he definitely could have handled that situation a lot better, I don't really blame him for moving on from Russ because Russell Wilson at that point, it was pretty clear he wasn't the same guy he was in Seattle, and he just wasn't a very good scheme fit. And Sean Payton, in hindsight, hindsight is 2020, but he made the right call moving on from Russ and selecting Bo Nix. Sean Payton is still one of the best head coaches in the league, and he's an all-time great. He is one of the greatest head coaches of all time. There really isn't much else to say about Sean Payton besides the fact that the dude is amazing. Now, when it comes to the Broncos' remaining opponents, their remaining team opponents are the Browns, the Colts, the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. It's definitely plausible that they win all 5 games, but me personally, I don't think that will happen, and I don't think that is likely to happen. I think they should be able to beat the Browns. I bet that they beat the Colts, but who knows? Upsets do happen. The Chargers game is a toss-up for me. I would favor them a little bit over the Bengals, but the Bengals, even though their defense is really shitty, they do have they do have Joe Burrow, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and they also got a really good offense, so they definitely could lose that game. Then as for the Chiefs game, that could be a win or a loss. There is a chance that the Chiefs rest starters that game, and if that's the case, the Broncos should win, and heck, they could even win even if the Chiefs play their starters. But hey, the Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. They're arguably the best team in the NFL right now. So they very well, the Broncos very well could lose that game. But me personally, I think Denver will win 3 to 4 of their remaining games, and I think they are going to finish with 10 to 11 wins, and I think they will secure a playoff spot and snap that playoff drought. Chances are they are going to be a first round exit, and maybe they can win a playoff game and be a second round exit. But honestly, it's okay if they make the playoffs and they're a one and done team, because Denver, they've been way better than people expected. And making the playoffs and being this good, it's a massive success for them, especially when you consider the fact that Bo Nix, he's had a very solid rookie season. And if you're a Broncos fan, you gotta be happy at how this team has played and the way Bo Nix has played and the way he's progressed, because it honestly looks like they have finally found their franchise guy. Now, the Broncos, they are 14th in cap space, and they maybe could free up some more money as well. But look, if Denver, if they can remain a lot of their if they can maintain a lot of their existing talent and get Bo Nix a serviceable starting tight end and a true wide receiver 1, then Bo Nix could really break out this year, and maybe the Broncos could become a true threat starting next year. But that's pretty much all I gotta say for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Again, hit that like button and subscribe, and check me out on social media. The links to my Twitter and Instagram are in the description below. But without further ado, I'm out, you guys.